The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mind Garden media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. Well, after some time off, it's time to start the podcast back up and get into season 4, and that's why we are here to do it.
Yay, we are back with season 4. Now, after a little bit longer of a hiatus than we had planned, and we'll tell you all about that in just a few minutes, we are finally back with season 4.
And it's going to be a lot of cool stuff, catching up on some stuff that happened over the holidays for us, even some stuff that happened mere moments before the recording of this podcast. So hold on. Season 4, Episode 1, a series of trips coming up next on the Sandy and Toddcast.
Crowds, arguments, loud noises, narcissists, energy vampires. Does that seem scary to you? It can to an empath. Sandy and Todd from the Sandy and Toddcast invite you to join them for a new podcast, the Empathicary Podcast. These two empaths know exactly what it's like, and they'd like to share their stories, knowledge, and ideas with you. Dive deep into the world of the empath. The Empathicary Podcast with Sandy and Todd. Find it anywhere you find your podcasts and like them on Facebook.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day, all while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Season 4, Episode 1. This is the Sandy and Toddcast. Hey, Sandy.
Hey, Todd. Hi. I'm pretty speechless. It was a little bit longer of a break than we had anticipated. We're going to fill you guys in on all of that in just a few minutes. But we've had an eventful, month, I'd say.
I'd say that. First of all, I have to apologize. I'm in a squeaky chair. And there's nothing I can do about it, so you're going to hear it squeak on the podcast. And I know specifically that will bother my sister, Vicki. I know that.
Well, sound effects. Sound effects make the whole podcast, right? Okay, let's just, I don't know.
We'll put it
I'm throwing it out there.
So how was your holidays? Everything good?
Quiet as usual. I'm getting even more used now to sort of hibernating, because it's number one, it's so cold here, but number two, the pandemic is still going strong, obviously, and we have been, knock on wood, lucky enough, Dave and I, to have, we think, evaded COVID for almost 2 years now, and so have you.
Yeah.
So we're doing something right. So we've just been kind of staying home, and we had a quiet holiday, which we usually do anyways, and just doing the best we can. As a matter of fact, on Facebook yesterday, remember the Rob Bass song, It Takes Two?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, and I was in a weird mood yesterday, and I love Rob Bass. I actually got to meet Rob Bass, which was so cool, but he's weird. Like, he's weird in his older age, but he was really cool and very nice. And so I love that song. It's 30 years old. What can we say? But there's a line in there that says, "Stay away from me if you're contagious." And I thought that should be the anthem for this whole winter, because everybody needs to stay away from me if they're contagious. That's all I have to say on that.
I think the problem is people are contagious and they don't even know it, you know? I mean, and not just COVID. I'm not just talking COVID.
Anything.
I'm talking about anything. Just, you don't know you're contagious and you're going around people. And that's why I'm a firm proponent of just not seeing people in general. Like, just stay away from me. That's fine.
Yeah, I've become more, and this is not a bad thing necessarily, but when I was doing mornings on the air on radio, I was up at 3:30 in the morning, and then I was going like all day. I was going all weekend. I was out in the community. I was doing tons of stuff, which, do not get me wrong, I loved every minute of it. But it also, one thing this epidemic has taught me is that I couldn't continue to do that forever. I am really enjoying my true introverted self now. I'm reading more books. I'm checking out more things. I've got more interest than I've had in a long time. And I'm really just liking kind of staying away from people. I know that sounds awful, but it's the truth. So
like we've had this big quit. They're calling it the big quit, where people are quitting their jobs and not going back. And in some cases, not going back to work. And these are not people who, are on the unemployment system. These are just people who are fed up with the life of your entire life is work. Everything you do is work. Everything is based on your work and how much money you make and what you can buy. And I think hats off to some of the younger people who are just basically saying, you're not going to treat me that way.
That's right.
My life is more important than what you need me to do at the company, at your $1 billion company that makes you millions and billions of dollars, and you pay me shit.
So true.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to complain when people were on unemployment, which I was on partial unemployment for a long time because I needed to be. I lost the radio job because of COVID. Right. I was not sure what in the world I was going to do. I was trying to pivot. I was trying to get on my feet. Now I'm doing fantastic. But at the time, I had to use partial unemployment. That's all I could do. I didn't have a choice. And a lot of people like to blame the people who are on unemployment, which, of course, some people abuse it. But they don't stop to think that there are a lot of older people, the older generation, who said, screw it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to retire now. I'm going to leave the job market now, and I'm going to enjoy my life. And a lot of younger people said exactly what you said. Screw it. I'm going to do something that makes me happy. And so really, I commend people who did that. And if there's one thing that is positive out of the pandemic, is that we're all sort of rethinking our lives, reevaluating, and doing more of what makes us happy.
And I'm not going to lie. Yes, there are people that take advantage of the system.
Yeah. Sure.
That will always happen no matter what system there is. Listen, on the other side, yes, there are people who should be working that aren't working, making a little money. But there's also rich people not paying taxes because there's loopholes there, too. So if you want to bitch about one side, you got to bitch about the other side.
Bitch about the other. I agree with you, and I think the bottom line here is if it's not really affecting your day to day,
shut up.
Don't worry about it.
Shut up.
Exactly. Don't worry about it. You do you. Everybody else can do them. And then we can all just live together and get through this thing.
Well, we already know that can't happen. I mean, that's living in a dream world. And and this is not a political thing for me. No. But it's just like, I get why people have basically said, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, and for me, for me thinking about it, we had a 2021 that was kind of tough for both you and I. Out of work, me sick, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it does make you go, you know what? I busted my ass and I bust my ass. And who's there to help me out? And then you realize really nobody. Really nobody's there. So, I mean, I get it.
My life is completely different now, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually happy with that. I love working from home. I love making essentially my own hours. I love being home with my pets. I don't need to be the social butterfly that I used to be when I was in the public realm, and I'm just enjoying it. I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to be 51 in February, and we're already looking ahead to plans of retirement down the road. I just want to enjoy my life. So that's what I'm doing. And my circle, my very small circle, are the people that I care about. So it is what it is, Anyway, so that's what the pandemic has taught us.
That's what our holidays were like. Mine were very laid back. Had a couple of family members over. That was it. I have to tell, before we tell like the big trip story, because this is called A Tale of Trips.
Yeah.
And to be honest, both trips, are focused a little bit about me. But I want to talk about the moments leading up to this podcast. Now, you and I have not seen each other.
You and I hate you.
You and I have not seen each other for a while.
Not face to face, like video face to face or anything, because you've been having some issues. But
Yeah.
I mean, we talk every day, but it's not the same.
Right. It's not the same. So we haven't seen anybody. And so we get on here and I'm like, hey, you want to record a podcast? Yeah, we'll do it. Okay. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. We get on and immediately there's technical problems. Now, here's the first question. Who of the Sandy and Toddcast members is having the technical issue? Is it Todd or is it Sandy?
That would be me.
Ding, ding.
Of course it would be me.
So, so there were problems. She couldn't hear me or something and
Right.
whatever. I mean.
Usually you can't hear me.
Right.
And I can hear you. But this time it was switched around. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Right.
So over a little bit of time, we worked that out. I gave her some tips and tricks, and I think we kind of fixed that situation. But it was typical Sandy technology. And then she says, here's a kicker.
I have tears in my eyes right now.
She says to me, don't laugh, but I spilled a soda on my laptop. So that might have something to do with it. Turns out it doesn't, but and here's the thing. I've done that too. I've gotten up in the middle of the night, walked to my desk and knocked over a soda and blew out my laptop before. But
when it happened, I was really afraid, but everything seemed to be, I was really like lightning speed. I'm like cleaning it up and everything seems to be working okay. But I'm like, oh God, please tell me I didn't blow out the speakers or something weird. Cause I still don't understand what my setup really is.
Well, that's the other thing. Like she's just, okay, so we have these things, we call them mixers or boards or whatever you want to call them. And it's a lot of buttons and it's a lot of things that can feed in and out. And if you have a basic understanding of audio in, audio out, you can kind of figure them out. And even if you have one and there's a different one, you kind of understand it because they're all the same. It's like driving a car. The directional, the turn signal is in the same position on all cars,
Right.
as is the steering wheel. Now, the wipers might be a little bit different, or the lights may go on differently, or the odometer may be in a different spot on the dashboard. But basically, if you can drive one, you can drive another one. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. She never went through driver's education when it came to mixing boards.
Well, you know what's funny about it too is that like these are radio station quality studios that we have. I mean, these are high quality, good, like a radio station.
Right.
And so when I was setting up my studio, I asked you what you had, you helped me, and we mirrored my studio to your studio. So we have all of the same exact equipment in mine as yours. Thank God, Todd. Because what would I have done? Like, you're like, it should feed into this channel and I should do this. I would never have known that. I would have been sending you pictures on how to do it. Anyways.
So we got through that and she's like, well, let's before we get into some weird echo thing, then after it had been working, then it wasn't working again. And she's like, well, let me go out of the room. Let me go out of the software and I'll come back in. So she comes back in and then I can't hear her. I can't hear her at all. And she's punching stuff and I can see her lips moving and stuff. And I know she's saying, can you hear me now? And I know, but I can't hear her. I can just read lips. So then.
And you didn't even laugh. You didn't smile. You were like totally serious the whole time, which threw me off even more.
So I'm thinking, oh, this girl, right? Now, here's the weird thing. We still haven't figured out. You've got like this weird noise that comes through on your side. It's kind of this like this metallic hum kind of thing. That'd be a great name for a band, by the way.
Metallic
Ladies
hum.
and gentlemen, here's Metallic Hum. And then they come out. And so at any rate, I could tell there was audio there coming from her, but I couldn't hear her. And then did I say to you, is it on or something like that? And then all of a sudden I heard a flip of a switch and I heard her mixer turn on. I heard the power go boom.
I had it off. And I didn't even realize I had turned it off. It was in my little panic of trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with it. I must have turned it off and not even realized it.
Now, understand, these mixers have little lights that are on that show that it's on. And then also when you talk,
big one, I know.
Yeah, there's numbers on it, and then there's also levels that light up when you talk. So none of that was lit. And she's like, "Can you hear me? I don't know what's wrong with this thing."
All right, are we done making fun of me now?
No.
The important thing is that we're up and running for the first episode of season 4.
So this episode is called A Series of Trips.
Yeah.
And I think I want to start off, I think, with the first, the one that's nearer to where we're at in the linear timeline. Okay. So today, if we back up, I don't know how many days from today. I guess today,
almost 2 weeks.
About 12 days from now. We were just talking about our holidays and stuff like that. And so I didn't do anything New Year's Eve. I didn't go out. I was in bed before midnight. I don't give a shit about New Year's. It's another fucking day, you know?
Me too.
It's kind of how I feel about birthdays and all that. I don't give a shit. I don't care. So
I know.
Nothing happened New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, I wake up and it was a Saturday. So I had some Saturday work I knew I was going to do. In fact, my list is still sitting here in the studio. Because today's the first day I've been in the studio since New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And so there were some things I had to do on a Saturday, blah, blah, blah. I was going to get up. I wanted to get things done. I wanted to get the Christmas decorations down. I wanted those packed away. I was going to get my radio work done. I wanted to get going.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I think you sent me a message and it's kind of early. And it was just like happy day or something. I don't know. You sounded pretty upbeat for that time of the morning on January 1st.
Yeah,
so I was like,
again, I wasn't out. I hadn't been drinking, whatever.
Right.
And so I went ahead and loaded up my laundry. I was going to take that down and get that started. Here's my list for that particular moment. So I was going to do some laundry, use the restroom, take a shower, and then I was going to hit the studio and get some work done. And then once I was done with that, I was going to take down Christmas decorations. Everything would be great. When the Christmas decorations would done, then the laundry would be done. I could fold. Oh, it'd be great, right? I had the plan in my head.
Yes.
So I've got my basket of laundry, not overly loaded, just a nice big basket of laundry. And I come down the upstairs. Everything's great. Walk through the dining room, walk through the kitchen, walk down the first little flight of stairs to the back door.
It's like 3 steps.
3 steps, landing.
Easy.
And then I start coming down the basement stairs. And about halfway down, about 3 or 4 steps into it, I miss a stair. I step on a shoe. I don't know. I don't know what exactly happened, but I lost it. Yeah. And in fact, coming down the stairs today, I can see where the basket actually ran. The basket ran along the wall.
Yep.
And kind of left a mark, which now I have to fucking paint, but whatever.
Why don't you wait a little
while? It's all right. I landed on my ass.
Yeah.
And I could tell right away, I fucked up my knee bad.
Yep.
I'd never seen a knee that looked like that before.
Now, you didn't break the skin, right?
No. I've got a little boo-boo on my elbow where I must have hit a stair or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, so I could tell that, and I could tell by looking at my quads, something wasn't right there.
Yeah.
So long story short, I make it to the hospital after insisting that I didn't get the laundry in the laundry in.
Wait. No.
Hold on.
We have to back it up.
Why?
We have to back it up a little bit.
Why?
Because before you went to the hospital.
Well, this is where I'm going. So I didn't get the laundry going, but I had to take care of the other 2 things. There was no way I was going to the hospital needing to use the restroom and not showering. So through all this, I've got a really messed up knee.
Yeah, it's bad.
But I still had to go, poo-poo. And I still needed to hop in the shower and get somewhat clean.
How did you even take a shower like that? I mean, I saw the x-rays, Todd. That's horrible. Your kneecap was pushed halfway up your thigh.
It was, so if your kneecap is in the front of your knee, mine was sitting on up above the knee.
Yeah.
And so what happened was it detached from my lower bone.
Mm.
And so then everything pulls up. So then your quads go, and that's why my quads looked all messed up and stuff like that. I have really nice legs. I don't have abs. I don't have arms, but I've got great legs. And
you do have cute legs.
And now it's going to be fucked up.
Yeah.
So at any rate, went in, was in the hospital way too long on New Year's Day. That was the worst experience of all this.
Yeah.
Found out I had to have surgery. So then that was Saturday. I had surgery the following Friday.
Right.
And that seems to have gone well. And so now I'm able to put a little weight on it. I'm actually able to get to my studio to do some work.
So let me just say this. After 2021 and all we went through in 2021 with you being as sick as you were and me being terrified the whole time, I thought, woo, we're done with 2021. You're feeling better. We actually have a diagnosis on a little something else going on. We're good to go. I can't wait. We're going to tackle 2022 together. It's going to be amazing. And then this happens. Trip. Well, it wasn't really trip number 1. It was trip number 2. But it was another very nerve-wracking. I was so scared for you because you sent me, I don't even know if you remember this. He sent me messages in the hospital and he sounded like he was going to pass out any second. Like you really sounded awful. And I was scared.
Well, a lot of things, you can mess up your knee, but it can mess up a lot of stuff going on in your body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I was still dealing with from summer.
Right.
I was supposed to have an appointment for today.
I know.
Had to cancel it and push it back. So we'll have to deal with that. But,
right.
I've got some therapy and stuff to go to for this knee.
Yeah. So it won't affect Dave and I visiting in June. You'd be fine. Dave says he's just going to throw you in the back seat of the car if we go anywhere. You can lay down in the back seat.
Great.
But by 6 months, I would think, especially with physical therapy, you'll be fine.
I'll be fine. I mean, we'll find out. We could find out that, I can only be on it for a certain amount of time or whatever. That could be for the rest of my life. Doesn't matter. It'll be fine. But don't you all enjoy how she goes from the pain and misery I've gone through and just worrying about a fucking trip in June?
Well, I want to see you because here's the downside of everything. We had kind of started to plan you coming out here in the spring to visit us for a few days and do some cool stuff. And so obviously we can't do that. So I was kind of psyched to have you coming out here to my stomping grounds. We are going to do that probably later, summer or fall. But, so now, I'm excited about June, but the whole thing is that at least you're okay. At least we are on the road to recovery, and that's the important thing. And, you've got a wonderful group of people who love you very much and are doing everything they can to help you through it. So, I'm just thankful that everybody can be there for you. It's hard for me because I can't physically be there. So, but I'm glad that you have people who can be.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. In fact, while we're recording this, Lisa Hale, the wonderful person that she is, probably will be dropping by to take Winston out on a potty walk because I'm not able to walk outside and stuff like that yet. So at any rate, so that's one of the trips that took place.
Todd. That's something that I would do. That's something that I would do.
Here's the thing. I've never done anything like that in my life. I never broke an arm, never broke a leg, never broke an ankle. None of that kind of stuff ever happened to me in my life. And it was always a fear of mine because I have a low tolerance of pain, but more so like seeing a messed up knee grosses me out.
Oh, I wouldn't want to have looked at it.
In fact, the truth is, after I fell and I saw it and had somebody come rescue me, I passed out from the pain and the sight and stuff. I was gone.
Yeah. I wouldn't have wanted to see it. Someone who I've known for many, many years, like 30 years, on Facebook, just over the weekend, fell down the stairs. We have sort of a brewery district in Utica, and there's a lot of bars and stuff that, you can go to and stuff. And he was coming out of one of them, and he slipped and fell and really messed up his foot and ankle. Like, it was a nasty looking picture. He's having surgery Friday. So it seems to be, I don't know, going around now. So I'm just being really, really careful with my stairs. I have a quick laundry story. Probably 12, 13 years ago, I myself fell down our cellar stairs as I was carrying laundry down. And it was weird because it was almost like it was in slow motion. I can still picture it in my mind as I see the wall coming at me. I had 2 black eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, because our cellar stairs at the bottom had an indented closet. So there was sort of like a corner that came out right at the bottom of the stairs.
Right.
And my face hit that corner. And so I had 2 black eyes. I was lucky I didn't break anything, but yeah. I'm laying there at the bottom of the stairs. Everybody's upstairs and I'm going, help me, help me. Nobody could hear me. I must have laid there for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before anybody even looked for me.
That's crazy. I was screaming. Yeah. I was screaming as I was going down the stairs. So
I'm just glad that you're okay, because yet again, my emotions were put through the ringer and I felt so bad. I still feel horrible for you. But you're doing it. You're getting through it. I didn't think you'd be downstairs in your studio today, so that was a good surprise.
So that was one of the trips on our series of trips that we're going to talk about today. Another trip that happened to me was it wasn't a very, as far as distance is concerned, not a very long trip or anything like that. But I think if you look at, again, a linear timeline of when the trip really started and where it ended is quite a while. And I know that we've talked about family and we've shared pictures before, and we've done those things where we've taken those online apps and we've colorized them, and we've done the thing with like Ed Gein where he does that weird face thing, and you can make people in your pictures move their eyes and shit. There's one out there now, like there's a new one, and it's just awful. I mean, it does a really bad job of it. And it's like, why would you even want to see your loved ones looking like that?
Why would you make an app like that? Now, I full disclosure, I made one of my grandma. I did the picture restoration one with me and my grandma. We were at the beach.
That's a good one, right? That's the good one?
Yeah. Like I was like 3 years old, my mother said. We're at the photo booth at the beach. And I have it sitting, it's in black and white. I have it sitting in front of my keyboard on one of my computers. And I've always wanted to, sort of spice it up and clean it up a little bit. And I found a great app that does that. But I also tried to take that picture and do the animation with the same program that I use for Ed Gein. That one didn't come out too bad. I think it's because my grandmother wasn't a sadistic serial killer.
Right.
That may have had something to do with it. So that one didn't come out too bad, but the Ed Gein one is definitely creepy. So anyways, we do that kind of stuff. We look at our history and we're interested in it to a certain level. Yep. And so for whatever reason, a couple of weeks back, I can't even remember, was it after Christmas? Must have been after Christmas. Yes.
I just had this urge to look up my last name. My real last name is Deering. And so I put that in Google, and immediately some pictures of my grandfather popped up.
You are so lucky with that, because it's very hard sometimes to find things like that, even on Google. So
Right.
you're very lucky.
Right. It popped up. And some of the stuff that was coming up was obviously from Ancestry.com and stuff like that, but some of it wasn't.
Right.
And so that took me down a road, well, first of all, to see my grandfather as a child,
Yes.
which I had never seen before, was amazing. And so many pictures. There are a couple of pictures that I've seen before and that I have copies of, but they were in better condition. And so I was able to, take them and take a better look at them, that kind of thing.
Right.
But then pictures that I'd never seen before. And one of the things growing up in my life is I realized, like, I knew a lot about my mom's side of the family, but not a lot about my dad's side. For whatever reason, we knew my dad's side basically up to my grandparents, and that was it. Didn't know any great uncles, didn't know anybody farther than my grandmother's side, all that kind of stuff. And later in life, like much later in life, there were some pictures, and I said to my dad, well, where was this taken? Was this taken on Grandma and Grandpa's farm? He said, no, that was on my grandmother's farm. I'm like, well, where's that? He goes, well, it's over here. And it's a place that I drove past millions of times in my life.
Isn't that something?
Never had an idea. So at any rate, as I'm looking through these pictures, I'm going back, well, here's my grandfather's father and mother. Well, I didn't know that. Found out that the name was spelled differently back then too. Then you go back another generation and there's your great-great-grandparents who were born in Germany, and the last name was spelled very differently at that point. So, I mean,
Right.
you start going down this rabbit hole, and it's really kind of fun,
Oh, it is. It's a lot of fun.
I didn't want to get too into it. I didn't want to know every brother and sister he had and all of their, I didn't want that. I just really wanted to kind of take one road back and follow that vein. And so there was a very interesting picture. And the picture was of a big house being built. And I looked at the house and thought, oh my God, that's a huge farmhouse.
Todd, it's beautiful.
Huge farmhouse.
Beautiful. Yes.
And as it was being built, it was in the stage where the walls were up, the windows were not in yet. I think it's my grandmother and great-grandmother and great-grandfather standing on the porch. You could see the workers out in front of it, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, I had no idea. My grandparents, my dad's parents, had a very small farmhouse, which they lived just up the road from us. I visited all the time and was a very special place to me. But I had no idea that great-grandmother and grandfather had this huge farmhouse. And so as I'm kind of looking at this, I wanted more details about that house. Well, I found another picture of the entire family, including my grandfather, sitting out in front of the porch of this beautiful house. I'm like, oh, I wish this thing were still around. I want this I want to see it so bad. But there was no address. There was nothing. I had a general area of where the family was kind of at. I knew kind of where my great-grandparents were buried. And then, interestingly enough, I found some postcards that my grandfather wrote to my great-grandparents while he was in World War I, stationed in France. But back in those days, you could literally address a family with the town. Yeah, the town that they were kind of close to. They didn't even have to live in town. It could just be, they're out there near blankety blank. And
everybody knew everybody.
Yep, and that's how stuff got delivered back then. So again, I had a general town, which was not necessarily the same information that I got with the burial and stuff like that, but it was within, let's say, a 15-mile radius. So I was just driven by this house. Like in my sleep, I was seeing this house. This house was on my mind. So some of the information I found out about the house was, it was noted that the house was probably lost in a fire because nobody knew exactly where the house was located. And with that bit of information, I actually found another great-grandson who lives out in Utah, Nevada, Utah.
Now, let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
Did it kind of make your heart sink when you heard that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I love architecture. I love older homes.
Yeah.
So there's that part of it. Even if there wasn't a family thing, I'd look at this house and go, oof, that's totally my style, you know? Mm-hmm. But knowing that there was family involved, and this was the place where my great-grandfather built. This is the place my grandfather grew up, and I had no idea. So I reached out to this great-grandson, and I just said, you know, you mentioned this, blah, blah, blah. Why do you mention it? And he said, there's just no recollection of the address of this house, and there's no further pictures of it, except for around this 1910 time. That's it. So,
and unfortunately, a lot of the homes that were built during that period were lost to fires because they were truly, essentially wooden structures that didn't have the same fire codes and fire standards that we would have today. So a lot of them were lost.
Yep, exactly. So I just, for whatever reason, do you ever, when you're looking at something like that and you just in your gut, you go, I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's true. And something inside of me was digging really hard. I mean, I was laying awake at night, searching on my phone, digging deep. And something was telling me, Todd, that house is still around.
Yep.
Now, how was I going to find it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how I found it, because I like architecture so much. From the one main picture, I look specifically at the roof lines because they're a little unique.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on Google Earth and I literally scanned a very large area of land for these homes. And I'll be honest, a couple hours into it, I think I found the house. Mm-hmm. Looks an interesting roof line. So on Google Earth, you can take it down to the street level. And you can kind of, well, unfortunately, number one, the street level was probably taken years ago. Quality is not great.
Right.
There's a lot of trees in the way, but there's enough there, looking at the foundation and the windows in the foundation and some other items on the house. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty fucking sure this is the house, you know?
I love it.
And so I'm like losing my shit. Oh my God, this house. Now I have a location and I'm going nuts.
Yep.
God, I wonder what it looks like inside. Oh my God, you know?
Now, up until this point, I had no idea that you were doing all this.
No,
like, I didn't know.
Because it literally became an obsession with me. And I did nothing else during this time. It was between Christmas and New Year's, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot of work going on and whatever. So at any rate, I was sure of it. I showed some family members, some other people who love old houses, and they're all like, well, it could be. I'm like, yeah, but look at this. If you see this in this picture, look at it. It's right there. Isn't that it? Well, I don't, you know.
Right.
I don't know how I did it, but I kind of went into a back door of a realtor site for that specific address. And while this house was not for sale, it had been sold back in 2016 and it still had all the information loaded in to the system.
Yep. Good thinking too, because I spent a lot of years in international banking and we dealt with a lot of fraud.
Yeah.
And as a manager, I worked closely with our fraud department. And so we would do a lot of investigating, a lot of that kind of stuff. And so that kind of taught me how to. And those are all things that I would have done. And I'm so proud of you because that's, you know, most people, your average person would never think to go that deep into it and that far. And you did unbelievably amazing with that. I was driven.
I was crazy. I was, you know, It was 2-3 o'clock in the morning and I was still doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So at any rate, I opened it up and here's a picture of the house at the exact angle of the original picture of it being built. I mean, if you look at the two, it's the exact angle of the house.
Now, this is where I come in because you sent me the two pictures and I'm like, oh my God, they are exactly, that is the house. And then you filled me in on the story and I'm like, even more so, I'm like, Todd, this was your journey. Like you were meant to look for this house.
Right.
I just had that feeling. Like, with all the hard work that you put into it and how driven you were, I was like, you really, and I agreed with you, you're like, I want to go find it. I said, you really need to carry this out.
So, of course, within this realtor site, not only is there an outside shot or several outside shots, but there's inside shots. I got to see what the staircase looked like, and the living room and the kitchen and the dining room and all the bedrooms. It was like, I think, a 5-room farmhouse, 5-bedroom farmhouse with 2 baths.
And come to find out, they had like 7 children. Your great-great-grandparents.
They had a shitload of children.
Yeah,
and I think two of them actually
kids.
passed away at birth or early on. And so they would even have more.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I was just over the moon. I was just over the moon that this place actually existed.
I'm so excited.
What I found out was that my great-grandfather, and I always thought, well, why didn't Dad say, hey, well, we could go out to great-grandfather's place. I'll show you where you lived. Because my dad loves that kind of stuff too.
Right.
And he just never did. And then I found out through more research that my great-grandfather passed away when my dad was 2.
Yep.
So that's why there probably wasn't a lot of going on out to great-grandma and grandpa's house or whatever the hell it was. But at any rate, then that got kicked up a notch because now I had to go see it.
Yeah.
And so
Definitely.
a couple of days before the second trip of my time off, my sister and I went out there and we saw the house. And here's some other stuff. Like, I find out, you find out who the owners are, and then you start researching them on Facebook. And I find out that one of the owners is a very good friend of one of my friends.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
So there's a connection there. And so we went out to the house unannounced and said, hey, met the owner, talked a little bit about the house and stuff. And he allowed us to walk around outside and take some pictures, which was absolutely incredible.
That was so nice of them, too, because here's some stranger who shows up on their porch, not to bring it up, but in the middle of a pandemic, some stranger that walks up on their porch and gives them this incredible story. And it was very kind of them to say, hey, go take pictures, go look around. I
took a blow up of the picture that I had of the house being built, and I took that along so that, not necessarily for proof, but here's an old picture of your house, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Very, very kind. And here's the real reason why I wanted to do it. He didn't have a lot of information about who built the house, and think about the house you're in right now. Do you know who built that house?
Nope.
Do you know what they did for a living?
Nope.
Do you know how they sacrificed to build the house you live in right now, or some of the tragedy? You don't, right?
Right.
Their story is gone. And while I do have relatives who have some of the knowledge, the relatives I do have that are alive thought the house burned down. So I was able to say, hey, look, guys, boom. Yeah. Here's the house.
Well,
and I think, and for me, it closed a little bit of a gap in where am I from? Where do I belong? Yep. I know that I know the area that my grandparents were from in Germany. At some point, maybe I'll dig back a little bit further and see if there's still some folks still living over there. Why do you want to do it? Well, when my dad passes away, that's it.
Yep.
In my grandfather's family, with his kids, my dad's the last one left. I am the last male of that family. Mm-hmm. So the lineage there, from my grandfather down, ends with me if I die.
Right.
Who can share that story?
Exactly. See, here's the thing. I'm much like you. Like, I have always been driven and felt a connection to the past. Always. I am hugely into history. Not only in general, but myself. I always have been interested in finding out where I come from. Well, I have no grandparents left. And so one of the things that I do regret, because I was young, I was only 20 when my grandmother passed, 21, and my grandfather passed 10 years later, but he had a stroke, so he was in the nursing home, and his memory wasn't great. And so at the age of 20, I never stopped to think, geez, I should ask more questions. I should find out more. And I never did that. I have bits and pieces of things. But now it's really, really important to me to be able to trace it back as far as I can, because the other problem is that the generations before my grandparents didn't, and I'm sure a lot of people run into this, did not discuss history very much. They did not discuss their family. They did not discuss their history. It just kind of fell by the wayside. And so here's something really cool. A couple of years ago, I took a DNA test to find out my actual lineage. And they also have a thing where you can find people that match your DNA. And I found a cousin that I have who lives not that far from me, maybe a half hour in Oneida, New York, and never knew her, never knew anything about her. And the irony of it, now we're friends on Facebook. We've never met in person because of the pandemic, of course, happened. But here's the irony of it. Her daughter, who is a teacher, actually won a contest that I created and put on when I was on the air.
Wow.
For charitable giving person of the year, community service, basically person of the year. Her name was Kelly, and she does a lot of things as a teacher for her community. Had no idea that she actually was my cousin.
Right.
Until I found out about my other cousin. So there's Lisa. Mwah. Hi.
So Lisa's here to take my dog out, right? Come here. Now,
Lisa's got her pants on.
I was just going to say, nobody can see these, but Lisa, why don't you describe your pants?
They're polka dotted, like the polka dotted elephant from Rudolph's Misfit Toys. That's what they are. Polka dotted elephant pants.
And she wore them specifically
to make you laugh.
So not to make me laugh, to embarrass me in my community. Because the last time she stopped over to help me and she wore like witchy pants or Halloween pants, the neighbors organization got together and basically said, don't let her back in the neighborhood. So
she's wonderful. I love her.
He was good going out?
He was a good boy. He took care of all of his businesses.
Did he do
He's
both?
a good boy.
Oh, okay, great.
All right.
Mom.
Thank you.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye. Love you too.
You want him in there with you?
No,
Okay.
He'll come follow you, I'm sure.
All right.
All right.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you. So, yeah.
She just literally walked into a pole in my basement. She turned around and walked into, like a floor pole,
Oh my gosh.
I got you who can't run a computer, and I've got her who can't just navigate life.
Can't run.
And then I'm laying here with my leg up in a sling.
We are all pretty sad right about now.
But here's another thing. My dad is in the nursing home with memory issues.
Yeah.
But if you ask him now, here's a question that I didn't think of, but the farm that he was raised on never had electricity until much later.
Yeah.
But they've got a cement silo. And I said, well, if you didn't have electricity, how did you create a cement silo? So he walked me through the entire thing. You remember
Isn't that something?
And it's like, I think, I feel like if I could get to him, I could talk to him about some of this stuff, but it's probably too far gone to try and do that. I wish, like you were saying, that I would taken time to ask those questions. And have more interest in it. I think
if anybody out there is listening to this and you have older family members that are still there, I mean, Todd and I are now in our 50s. We don't have that same opportunity. Go ask questions, find out. I know my grandfather, actually my great grandfather had a fruit and vegetable cart in Utica. A horse-drawn fruit and vegetable cart. My grandfather would help him. But I don't know anything more specific than that. I would love to know those stories.
Can you imagine coming up with that picture? Somebody has a picture of that. And you could print it out and put it in your home,
Exactly. So, but on the flip side, Todd, I was telling you about this the other day. You got some information from a postcard. My grandmother actually collected postcards that her family would send at the turn of the century, the 1900s. And I thought that I didn't have any left, but I actually found 2 of them.
Wow.
Yes, I found 2 the other day. And one of them is just a picture of the main drag in Utica, and it's blank. But the other one has a picture of a castle in Germany on it. And it's addressed to who I'm assuming is my great-grandmother, who lived, again, in Oneida, New York, half hour away. It has an address and everything. And I know where the street is. The only thing is, and I'm going to have to do a little more digging on this because you totally inspired me that I'm going to follow through with this as much as I possibly can. The only problem is that the street numbers have changed.
Yeah.
So now I have to see if I can figure out what the equivalent street number, house number would be.
I will tell you this, the local library will have that information. And
I'm going to have to check.
Yeah, because I remember I lived in a house. Whenever I buy a house, I try and, learn a little bit about it because I think there's stories there. And I remember the house that I was in, the numbers had changed, and there's like a city something. It's kind of like a phone book, but it's a city book, and it will tell you who's in what locations, and then it'll tell you who built the house, all that kind of stuff, and it will also tell you like if the house numbers changed at a certain time or a street name changed and all that kind of stuff. That will be there as well. So if you kind of know, it can help.
That's what I need. I have the exact address. I know where the street is. All I have to do, I actually have the postmark of the card, which is 1904.
So you will go look for the if they have it back that far, the 1904 version of the city. I don't know, it's like an almanac or whatever.
Right.
And it'll have all sorts of information. Who was the mayor? Who was this? Blah blah blah. And then it'll have all the residents of it of the place. So
that's invaluable.
I could spend like that. Could be my life. I could just hang out and research for people.
I would love to be able to find out more than I have. Now, I know that my family, the last handful of generations, did not come over here. They were already born here. Although, I have to say, a lot of my Lebanese Arab side of the family, my grandfather's side of the family, do have some that did come over, but not all of them came over. So I don't know how far back I would go, but now I'm sort of driven. Like you've kind of really inspired me to be able to do this. So
yeah, for me it was I don't know how far back I need to go to find some, but I wanted to know like connected with my dad and my grandfather. Like how far back does that go? So. My grandfather's grandfather, I want to know that a little bit.
But I think you're good. I think that's exactly where you need to be. If you want to go further, that's fine. But I really believe, and I told you this in the beginning, that this is your journey. Like there's a reason why A, you're so driven to find it, and B, it fell into your lap to begin with. And
there's this kind of feeling now that I need to own the house at some point. Two things, and now 3 things. Number 1, the house is not for sale. Number 2, it's going to be much more expensive than anything I've ever owned before.
Right.
And number 3, it has a shitload of stairs. So I don't know if this is really where I need to go in my life. I was actually starting to look at ranch style homes where there's no stairs.
That's what I said. I was like, you better just try and stay on one floor for a while. But I actually told Dave, because Dave and I are going to move to Savannah, Georgia in a handful of years and kind of semi-retire down there. And I said to Dave last night, as a matter of fact, I said, Dave, let's just get 1 story. I don't really want more than 1 story. I think I'm good with 1 story because there seems to have been a lot of accidents going on lately with stairs and things going on. So I'm good.
Stay away from them.
But yeah, so I'm really glad you got to do that. And I'm glad I got to be a part of it and kind of be there with you every step of the way. It was really neat to experience that. So I'm kind of on a journey of my own now, and I'll see what I can figure out.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Glad to inspire you.
Well, you inspire me all the time.
Oh, God. Here we go.
You do.
Here we go. I had a break from this for like 3 weeks.
You love me. You love me. You love me. So anyways, all right, we better enough of our chit-chatting for this episode. But don't forget, like our page on Facebook, the Sandy and Toddcast. Join our group on Facebook, Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast. We have a lot of fun stuff on there. We have 220 people in our group right now, and a lot of active members, and everybody has a good time. It's just a safe space to go and share your thoughts, feelings, ideas. Doesn't even have to be about the paranormal. We just talk about anything and everything in there, and it's just non-judgmental. It's really cool. And one more thing, we have our own sort of project / company type thing in development called Mind Garden Media. And we also have a couple of podcasts that we are handling for Mind Garden Media right now. The Witching Hour with Aaron Mazza, that is now in episode, I think Aaron is releasing episode 5 very shortly. You can find that on Anchor and also I think a few other different platforms. Make sure you like Aaron's page, The Witching Hour with Aaron Mazza on Facebook. And you can also check out the Apps Alchemy podcast. Sue and Damon from Apps, Adirondack Park Paranormal Society, frequent guests of ours. They now have their own podcast.
Yay!
And I know. And you can find that on all of your regular platforms, the same platforms that you find us. They have an Adirondack Park Paranormal Society Facebook page like that. And you can find all of the episodes there as well. So we are moving up in the world and handling podcasts. If anybody's interested in any kind of podcast at all, comes talk to us. You can find all the information in our show notes, and we'll help get you on the right track.
So here's my chair. Listen. Can you hear it?
Yes.
Can you hear it squeaking?
Why are you using that chair? Is that just the most comfortable chair for your situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
This chair works for the situation that I'm in right now, and that's the way it's going to be.
Okay. Not much to say about that.
Nope.
That's just how it's going to be. All right.
A series of trips is all done now. Season 4 is underway.
We talked about a lot of trips.
You are a trip. You're a trip. You're a trip.
Listen, everything you put me through, oh my God. You are a trip. I'm
love you.
emotionally a wreck. I love
between
you.
Between you and Lisa, I don't know who's worse.
Because we love you and you love us, so face it. Anyways, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Till next time, bye.
Bye.